Time now to talk some Giants football. It's been a big part of the show here on the MSG 150 presented by Chase. And to do that, we bring in Giants analyst Paul Dottino. Before, Paul, we talk Giants football. We know you're a huge sports fan. What do you think of what transpired last week with the NBA draft and the NHL draft?
I think it's great, guys, to be a New York sports fan right now. You look at the buzz surrounding the Devils and the Rangers getting franchise players, the young Islanders who made huge strides this year. You talk about the Knicks and the Nets and the draft parties they had, the salary cap room for these teams. If you're an all-around New York sports fan, and let's not forget the Yankees are just doing great things, outside of the Mets, you've got to be so happy to be rooting for these New York teams right now. We are on the cusp of something very big in New York sports in the next couple of years.
We got the building of these teams, and I think that's the fun part. And the best part is that Boston stopped winning championships, which is really good to see as well, Paul.
Yeah, I definitely am on board with you there, Alan.
All right, let me ask you this. So you have a Duke player as the number one pick for the Giants. You have a Duke player as the number one pick for the Knicks. Which of these two players gets to the playoffs first? Go.
Well, I think it's an interesting call because if you're the Giants and things go well this year and you're in playoff contention and Eli Manning gets through the season healthy, he will possibly get an extension for 2020, which means Daniel Jones sits for the first 2 years of his career. Well, that says to me that R.J. Barrett has 2 years to get the Knicks into the playoffs before Daniel Jones may be able to do that for the Giants at the end of his third year, which would be his technically rookie season as a player in the NFL. So if I had to put some coin on that right now, Alan, I would probably say that it's going to be R.J. Barrett.
That's fascinating what you said about Eli Manning, however. Like think about this, Bill. People have been saying that this is Eli's last year. Now this is it. Now this is it. They're already trying to pick which game this coming season will be the one that Daniel Jones takes over. And what Paul's explaining is that Eli could be here for another 2 years.
But it's going to be an interesting dynamic because if you're the coaching staff, Paul, how are you going to know when to pull the trigger if you got to make a change?
Well, you'll have to look at a few things. First of all, is Eli staying healthy? That's number one. Is Eli performing at a winning level? That's number two. And then number three, are the Giants still in the wild card race as they get into December? If all those things are still happening, and I think, quite frankly, they are possible, I think Eli gets himself that one-year extension, again, provided that he does want to come back and play another year. If any of those things are not in line, well, then obviously at some point over the last month or so, you're probably looking at Daniel Jones making the transfer. But I think it's very important to understand that the Giants are going into this with an open mind. Remember, there are 5 quarterbacks in NFL history who have thrown for at least 4,000 yards in a season aged 38 or older. So Eli Manning is not breaking new ground if he has a good year.
Now, if we're talking about the Giants, we're talking Eli Manning. But we also have to talk Odell, because Odell says things and we react to things that he says. And, of course, it refers to the Giants. And he said in an interview with Complex, I just felt with the Giants, I was just stuck at a place that wasn't working for me anymore. I felt like I wasn't going to be able to reach my full potential. Is he throwing shade at anyone in particular, Paul?
No, I think he's just frustrated. Look, we all know that Odell Beckham had a lot of maturing to do and a lot of growing up to do this past year. It looked as though he had done that when he got his contract extension during the last offseason. But what happened? The Giants started to lose at the beginning of the year. They fell out of it early. Things started to snowball. And all of a sudden, some of the immaturity that Odell Beckham had shown throughout the early part of his career started to seep out through the cracks again. And what we have seen since he left, and by the way, Odell Beckham did want to stay with the Giants. Make no mistake about that. All of the close people to him, all of his confidants have told me he was devastated when he was traded to the Cleveland Browns. No matter what anybody tells you publicly, he was devastated. In fact, people closest to him also wanted him to stay with the Giants for a lot of reasons. So now he's licking his wounds, and in a lot of ways, the immaturity is coming out as sour grapes.
All right, so no Odell Beckham, Eli Manning, obviously toward the late stages of his career. Does that mean, Paul, that it's Saquon Barkley's team?
Oh, I don't think there's any question that what the Giants would like to do is adopt a model philosophically as to what the Cowboys did several years ago when they had DeMarco Murray as their power running back. He was their workhorse. And what they tried to do was use a terrific defense. A weak defense, but combine a weak defense, a suspect defense, with outstanding special teams, a power offensive line, with a strong running game, and an occasional big play in the passing game. If you look at the Giants, that is exactly how they've built this model right now. Run it with Barkley, get occasional big plays, and have outstanding special teams, which they were able to put forth on the field last year. They're going to try to use that formula and see if they can hide some of the young, inexperienced deficiencies that this defense has going into the season.
Speaking of the offensive line, which is going to be a big part of this, it's been remade once again. What is the presence of Zeitler going to mean for Will Hernandez?
Well, let's face it. You're talking about two stud guards who are going to be able to protect Eli Manning up the middle, in his windshield, so to speak. And that is such a big part of what the Giants want to do. Because if you're going to go with some of the quick release stuff, if you're going to go to some of the stuff over the middle to either Ingram, or you're going to get Tate over the middle on some short slants and so forth, you need to make sure that Eli Manning has a clean pocket. But more importantly, Alan, and you know this, when a quarterback has more than 2.5 seconds, and Eli's only had about that for the last 6 years, not only does that give him more time to seek out a more profitable target downfield, it gives all of his receivers more time to work against the defense to get open, to give them a better opportunity to make a big play in the passing game. No, keeping Eli's windshield clean is a very big part of why this Giants offense should be a lot better this year.
I love the way you put that, to the windshield clean. That's a great part of that. But obviously now we talk about the Giants defense, because I think offensively they're going to be just fine. Defense is going to be extremely young. How young? I think that's going to decide whether or not this season's successful or not. Do you agree?
I couldn't agree with you more, Alan. There are two things that the Giants really have to worry about going into the season. One is they don't have any proven pass rush. You're talking about a team last year that was tied for second to last in the NFL in sacks. So they have no proven pass rush that's going to scare an offensive coordinator. Where are they going to generate that? We don't know right now. Maybe Zimenez, the rookie, can do some of that. Maybe Marcus Golden, a couple of years removed from an ACL surgery. Maybe he can do that, signed as a free agent. Maybe Lorenzo Carter can graduate in his second year and become a real good pass rusher. Or maybe Betcher's scheme is what does it. We don't know the answer to that. That is a huge question for this team right now. The second part, and it's all part of what you said about the inexperience on defense, they've got so many young players in their secondary. They're going to make their share of mistakes. The question is, how many of those mistakes prove fatal when the other team is able to take advantage of those mistakes, or when the Giants offense can't score enough of points to overcome the points that those mistakes allow?
Paul, it's late June now. Take us through the calendar now for the Giant fan that may be unaware of what's ahead here in July and August in terms of when training camp starts, et cetera.
Well, the players are off right now, and they won't be coming back until the rookies report on July the 22nd. You'll have some selected veterans also. Of course, the coaching staff will be there. They'll do a little bit of pre-workout before the veterans come in to report on July the 24th. That's the mandatory day whereby you have to be here, signed in at the Meadowlands, or you're officially called a holdout. On the 25th, the Giants will actually have their first full team practice of training camp. First couple of weeks, they're going to have practices early in the morning. Then after the second week, they'll move them to later in the afternoon as they get into August and prepare for their 4-game preseason. But right now, as it stands, they've got a 90-man roster that they're pretty excited about.
All right, Paul, we look forward to seeing you as part of our training camp live coverage coming up here during the summer on MSG. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Guys, it's always good to be with you.
And I want to remind everybody, Alan, that Daniel Jones is going to be on the show Wednesday.
Looking forward to that.
That's
another Duke guy.
A lot coming your way here. For more great videos from the MSG 150, check out right there. And remember, our show is on Monday through Thursday, 8 to 10:30 p.m. on MSG Network and MSG Go.